Welcome, everyone. I know we're just 2 o'clock on the button, so I'll let a couple of people join. You might put your thumbs up or give us a reaction if you can hear us. I'll take that as a good sign. So great. Okay, we'll kick in. So welcome, everyone, to our webinar today, Preparing for the Future of AI in Quality and Regulatory. My name is Ciara Griffin, and I'll be your host and moderator for today's session. So this is our AI in Action webinar series. This is the second session. Last month in August, we held our first session where we focused on the critical skill of prompt engineering. So our team took us through 2 specific use cases where they demonstrated live, which was not an easy task, how to apply the principles of prompt engineering to get an effective output for life science tasks. So we had great feedback on our last webinar. So hopefully today goes down as well. We are doing something slightly different. So today we will be running a panel style session where we have 2 fantastic speakers with us today who will be sharing their insights and experience. So we will first set the scene by talking about why AI, why now. Then we'll look at the future vision. So what will workflows look like in 2 to 3 years for quality and regulatory professionals? We'll then, of course, wrap it up with the practical steps that you can take today. We won't just leave you with the future vision and then leave you all confused. We will give you some practical steps to take. We do want to make the session as engaging and interactive as possible. So please pop any questions you have into the Q&A box, and we will hopefully get to all of them and address them. Before I introduce our speakers, I'll just take you through our Inspire framework. So we know that there's a lot of information out there around AI, a lot of different tools, a lot of different systems and buzzwords, and it can be quite overwhelming. So that's the reason why I suppose we designed this Inspire framework to take our clients through AI transformation. While each step is crucial, not every step needs to be done together. So all of these steps can be addressed in parallel, or at least a lot of them. So we find this a really good place to start when you want to, I suppose, implement AI into your workflows and your teams. So I won't go through each step today, but we will be sending the slides out after the session. So we recommend you take a look at it and see how you can apply it in your own teams. So with that, I'm really excited to introduce our 2 speakers today. First, we have Connor Flynn, who some of you may recognize from the last session. Connor is the head of innovation here at Trinzo. With over 20 years of experience, Connor found and built his own artificial and machine learning company in EdTech. So he brings a wealth of experience, and he has been in Trinzo for about 3 years now. So he's able to take all of his expertise in AI and machine learning and has applied it to our industry. Alongside him, we have Justin Deerking, co-founder of MyQMS. So Justin has over 2 decades of experience in quality, operations, and engineering in the med tech industry. He has held senior leadership roles in Boston Scientific and Medtronic, with his last role being Vice President of Quality Systems at Medtronic. So MyQMS is a partner of Trinzo, and at MyQMS, they're helping professionals and companies implement AI-powered solutions into their operations. So it's great to have you both here today, and we will kick off into the panel style if you're ready. Great. So, Connor, I might start with you. In terms of your personal motivation for being in your role, kind of what motivates you and what do you find so interesting about AI in quality and regulatory?
Yeah, okay. So I know you'd half prepared me for this question, but let's see what comes out. Thank you, Kira. Um, I suppose as Kira mentioned, my journey in AI started back in 2011 when I co-founded a company called Adapt2Me, which where we used machine learning to measure learning. And we'd be world recognized as very good at that at the moment. So I went all over the world, and currently we have implemented it in Singapore, Germany, all across the world. Um, and although we started in secondary school education, really 12 to 18-year-olds, it now covers professional development. And actually, we've just implemented in a life science company. I better not name names at the moment, but we've implemented in a life science company now for their training. I suppose that gave me a grounding in AI. So if you think about it, we were modeling the brains of children at the start. So the ethical considerations were absolutely front and foremost in everything that we thought about in terms of the development and the deployment of AI across the world, really. So I suppose that gives me a different perspective to what you might call the tech bros. It was never move fast and break things. It was be very, very careful and remember who you're impacting with anything that you do. Um, but why medical devices? So my family background obviously is in medicine. So I don't know the ages of people here, but when I grew up, my dad was a GP. You'd have people calling to the door, and even when we went on holidays to Spanish Point in the west of Ireland, um, like my grandmother's house was actually her surgery, so we were surrounded by patients um, as children, and all the discussions that we'd be listening to would be um, adults talking about how they could help people. And I suppose that was key in my youth. And then why medical devices? So when I got the opportunity to work with Trinzo, thinking about my son was born about 2.5 months premature. For the first month of his life, he lived in a machine, and like we couldn't take him out. And he used to come out once a day for the chest time, but I couldn't see him or anything like that. And I was just thinking before this call, he's happy, he's healthy, he's a 7-year-old boy. And a couple of days ago, himself and his buddy got a hold of my branch cutters and chopped up the swing in the back garden. And I suppose I'm just so grateful that he's here with us. And like, if he'd been born when I was born, he probably wouldn't be here today. So my why is really based around, I hope that I can play my part in helping you guys do what you do.
Very nice. Thanks for sharing that, Connor. Justin, I'll throw that question over to you as well.
Sure. Sure. Well, thanks for having me and great to see everyone today. I guess, my motivation, personal motivation, Connor, certainly thanks for sharing kind of your story. And, my whole goal with our ventures into AI is to really help facilitate all those improvements and all that innovation that helped deliver to Connor and his family what they were able to benefit from. So as a manufacturing engineer and as a quality engineer many years ago, I struggled with how to use the quality system to get improvements over the finish line. And then as a quality and engineering leader, when we do our annual surveys for employees, the number one thing that consistently people complain about was it's too hard to get work done around here. And the main perceived culprit for all of that was the quality system. Whether that was true or not is secondary. People always perceive the quality system is too hard to work with. And as a quality leader, people would look to me to say, hey, Judson, this is your job to address this. What are you going to do? And it always felt like we didn't have a lot of levers to pull to actually significantly and sustainably improve that experience to help people get innovations over the finish line. And so now with the innovations of AI the last few years, that's what really compelled me to jump into this space, is to provide what I think is the next significant leap forward in technology. It's going to help companies, life science companies, deliver more innovations for more patients faster with more reliability and quality. So that's really my motivation, is to help my past self and hopefully future folks in this industry deliver more great things for our customers.
That's great. Thanks for sharing as well, Justin. So I might throw it back over to you, Connor. So I know you've been working in AI I won't name the years, but a long time. So why is AI the buzzword now? What's changed, and why is everything all about AI?
Yeah, it's a good question, Kira. So obviously AI has been with us for a long, long time, but I suppose the Sputnik moment was the release of ChatGPT to the wider public, where we got to actually see the power and play with the power of generative AI at our hands. So back in my day, in order to do anything with AI, like back with Adapt.me, I had a team of data scientists, a team of algorithm developers, a team of software developments to implement anything. It took a long time, a lot of work, and it was very expensive and difficult to do much. So you could only really look at very big, a small subset of very big problems across an organization where you'd even consider using an AI solution to address the challenge. But with ChatGPT, what it's done is, I've used the phrase democratized AI, where the ability to automate or leverage AI is in everybody's individual hands. Like, you can do stuff in your bedroom now that you would have needed teams of people to do. And I suppose that has given us so much power and so much possibility, but also has, there are problems with getting a lot of power and possibility that we need to be careful of. But the speed of the change and the number of people who have the ability to implement and do something special with AI is just, and the number of problems that we can address has just exploded. It looks almost unlimited at the moment.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I suppose that kind of brings me on to the next question, Justin, on what are the core objectives of why medical device and pharmaceutical companies should be looking at this technology and implementing it into their processes?
Yeah, anybody on the phone here who's worked in the quality system space understands that every single year, we are being challenged in the quality field to do more with less, right? Reduce complaints, improve CAPA lead times, reduce your NCMRs, eliminate 43s, very challenging quality objectives. But at the same time, it seems like the budget's going the opposite way. So you're always challenged every single year to do more with less. And, the options to do that are pretty limited. And, there's a whole host of solutions that, are commonly employed to help improve quality and compliance, things like, do more training or better training, maybe hire specialists to help the teams do specific activities, maybe implement an EQMS. There's again, a variety of those types of things that people do, which can have improvements, but sometimes work opposite the budget constraints that you have. The other piece that comes in is sometimes those improvements are short-lived and are not sustainable over time to produce long-term improvements. And so, across the industry, I will say that if I had to pass a red face test of, are we getting better as an industry in terms of quality and reliability for our patients? It's hard to say that we have, despite all the billions and billions of dollars we all collectively have invested in this space. And so that's why I'm very excited about why AI is at the right point now to take us forward on that journey. We now have another lever in that toolbox that we can use to not only improve quality, reliability, compliance, de-risk our operations, but also ideally, hopefully do it with fewer resources so that we can satisfy the requirements that society is placing on us as life science professionals. And so based on my experience, both in the industry pre-AI, but also my experience in the last 2 years developing these AI solutions, I'm absolutely convinced that now is the right time, like Connor said, of we've reached that turning point. We're ready to start turning these AI technologies into real solutions that solve real problems and will help kind of really take us forward, I think is the next leap forward in quality and operations in the life science industry.
Great. So we'll take that you've convinced everyone here now to implement AI into their workflows. What does the workflows in 2 or 3 years look like? I know neither of you are psychics, but what is going to happen to the industry?
Should I go on broad and then
Go
Justin
ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
now?
Connor.
Well, I suppose people within the Trinzo family have heard me banging on about this for ages, but I can't predict the future, but I can say what I think I might like it to look like. I see in the future a digital workforce alongside your human workforce. So I see every person, every task, every process having an AI assistant or AI enablement or enhancement alongside it. I see all of the repetitive, low value but necessary heavy lifting tasks being performed or augmented with an AI, bringing humans up for decision making, direction, getting information to people so that they can make better decisions, and bring more of the human qualities which get lost in the stacks and stacks of repetitive, boring work that we do, so that people can be fresher and make better decisions, do their job better. I obviously envisage a very positive future for everybody working in a medical device company.
Yeah, I would agree with what you said, Connor. And I think taking that a step further is the organizations that figure out how to do what you described will have a competitive advantage over their peers. And to do that, there's obviously a lot that has to go into that. It's not a magic wand that just magically makes that happen. But an important part of that to think about for folks here on the call is, how organizationally do you manage that transition? And also thinking about, you mentioned kind of digital labor, is thinking about these systems not just as, Excel, it's a tool. It is almost like digital labor. And how
Yeah.
do you organize your teams to think like that? So if I'm a manager of a team, I have, employees, real people, but I also have this digital labor that I need to figure out a way organizationally to help them work together as seamlessly as possible. And that's, both just traditional old school kind of organizational management and good leadership principles, but also technology that helps facilitate and enable that good coordination. So there's a lot of kind of new ways of thinking that we're going to have to adapt to I think fully realize that vision that you mentioned.
I agree so much. You phrased it really well there, Justin. We need to learn how to work with machines, just like we learned how to work with people. And that mix of it, it's something that everybody needs to learn. And you can be a rule maker or rule taker on this. There's going to be more and more AI through every workflow in every company. And you can decide to be on the side of, I understand what's happening and I'm good at this. And as Justin said, get a competitive advantage, not just for your company, but also for you. Or you can stay on the other side of it, I suppose, that which might be a more difficult route.
Yeah. And just to add to that, so as manufacturers implement AI, what if we look at the wider industry to what the FDA and the other regulatory bodies are doing? Justin, could you maybe add to how the FDA is beginning to adopt AI and how manufacturers should kind of learn and adapt from that?
So I'm sure everyone heard the announcement earlier in the summer where FDA launched this new ELSA AI tool that they're using for internal operations. Now they've been a little bit cagey about exactly what they're using it for, kind of big picture, they said for like submission reviews, maybe like 510(k)s or PMA reviews, identifying high-risk inspection targets. So presumably they're using that to look at maybe MDR information to understand where there might be hotspots they need to send investigators to. So it's a little bit unclear exactly how they're using it. Also, I mean, we all have worked with different governments. We know how kind of slow and inefficient they can be. So my own personal opinion is a bit tempered by their ability to really innovate fast enough to make this meaningful. But with that said, I have heard, I guess, anecdotal stories from folks in the industry who are getting questions back from the FDA on submissions that appear to be like AI generated type questions. Now, again, can't prove that either way, but people are at least feeling or thinking that they're getting some AI reviews and questions back. So the point of all that is the government is going to start doing this, especially in the US, because the budgetary kind of restrictions have been put in place on all federal agencies is going to drive, they're going to have to start using AI. They will have no choice in order to keep up. So what that means is for the industry is you're going to have to keep pace. And there's almost, I could foresee like an AI arms race between industry and FDA in terms of if they're using AI to review your documents, do you need to use AI to help prepare them and review them ahead of time to anticipate what kind of AI tools the FDA is going to be reviewing your documentation with so that you can get things done quickly, correctly, the first time. So it's coming. It's coming. And I would definitely encourage people to start thinking about how they can do this because you don't want to be on the other end of this with FDA far ahead of you in their capabilities and you're not ready for it.
Yeah, Justin, I think that's really interesting. I like your, I would say, skepticism that the government can keep up with industry in this. But what do you make of the signaling from the FDA in terms of their attitude towards AI, and what does that mean for companies?
Yeah, it's hard to say, and the FDA put this out, and my personal feeling is I don't know how much testing went into this. I don't know how thorough they have done like validation on this to again give proper guidance to reviewers in terms of what they should be talking about companies with it. So I'm a little bit skeptical that this was a rushed effort to show some kind of progress. But nonetheless, it's clear they're throwing down the gauntlet, right?
Yeah.
They're saying we are going to use these tools because we believe in them and we think this is the future. And I think life science companies would be a little bit remiss if they did not follow suit.
Okay, very good.
Interesting. Yeah. It'd be interesting to know if anyone in the audience has any experience as well. You can drop it into the chat if you feel comfortable in sharing. But yeah, okay.
Sorry, just on that point, I was talking to a European regulator, and I was asking what they thought about the FDA and ELSA, and he was saying we don't have to worry about that in Europe. In America, they drop things in, and everybody has to run around. But in Europe, they'll tell us it's coming, and we'll have 2 years to prepare. Does that sound?
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have a reputation for being cowboys in the U.S., and I guess that we're following suit there.
No further comment on that now. So, Connor, I suppose looking to the future again, do you believe we're heading towards kind of a one solution fits all, or do you kind of see it being many different AI solutions? Could you kind of give us what you think it will look like?
With that's good. I was talking with Justin there a couple of days ago about my take on the international philosophies on AI adoption. I said it appears to me like the Americans are looking at a big bang artificial general intelligence journey, not necessarily within our industry. While the Asians, particularly the Chinese, are looking at how do I practically implement things on the ground, if you know what I mean, to leverage their manufacturing might. In my view, I see, again, we can't predict the future, and what do you hope for the future is the only way that you can look at it. I don't believe in the possibility of a general AI, all-knowing, all-being, godlike entity that we can create. In fact, I see it more likely going the opposite direction, where AIs will become much more specialized, much smaller. And I think there's a lot to learn from the practical implementation of real solutions that solve real problems today. So I suppose my 10 years in China made me more open to that. I admire the big picture thinking of a lot of the American philosophies on this, but I'm skeptical. I'm very skeptical of that. I like the European approach, which I think is a human first approach, but we're clearly miles behind both the Americans and the Chinese on this. Have I just painted a broad brush there? Would you like to shout at me a little bit there, Justin?
I mean, I guess my take is, everyone would love one tool, right? Like nobody wants to manage like 10 or 20 different tools or software programs. That's a huge hassle. They would love to just go to one and just have it solve all their problems. Like you go to Microsoft suite of products. Now it's multiple products, not just one, right? But there's still kind of one central point. So I think everyone would love that. I think the reality is for the next few years, it's probably going to be a lot of different specialized systems that people have created in order to satisfy some of those needs that people have. And then eventually, potentially, they would start converging as the AI capabilities get more and more and more. Maybe you need less of that specialized kind of front ends or experiences, and you'll have something that's more generalizable that can be used in a variety of situations. TBD on whether that actually comes to fruition. But I think in the short term, you're still going to have a lot of kind of one-off tools that you're going to have to manage, like managing a team. You've got lots of different personalities and people who do different things that are specialized. You have to figure out how to manage those. The same is going to be said for these AI solutions and this digital labor concept that we're talking about.
I suppose you could have a couple of behemoths like the Amazons and the Facebooks, Meta it's called now, I think.
Yeah.
Or it could be much more fragmented. I definitely think, like, if you think about any technological or IT implementation, think about the amount of bespoke work that needs to be done today. So, for example, if you implement Salesforce in your company, you don't buy it off the shelf and go. You spend 6 months, 1 year, even 2 years configuring it and then constantly evolving and updating it. I think that the journey that AI is, maybe there will be these big platform companies, but the level of bespoke work that which will have to be done will be an order of magnitude bigger than what we have to do for IT implementations at the moment. So there's constant work coming along the tracks in order to optimize AI for your use case.
Yeah. I will say just real quick that is true big picture, but there are a lot of AI solutions you can implement very quickly without having to go through a 2-year project. So I just want to throw that in there so people don't feel like they're sweating saying, oh, this will never happen.
That kind of leads into Jenna's question there, just from the audience. She just asked, how do you think AI will change EQMS type tools? Justin, you might be able to answer that one.
Well placed for that. Yeah,
good point. So obviously there is a whole host of EQMS solutions out there today. I mean, it's like overwhelming how many are out there. All of them are talking about implementing AI solutions within their software. I would say at this point, all of them are very light on actual implementations or examples where they've done that successfully. And so the concept, obviously the EQMS is the logical place to implement AI because it has all of your data, right? If you have a PLM in there, it's got all of your, your DHF, it has all your specs, it has all your documentation. If it's got all your CAPAs, all your NC models, all of your complaints, all that's housed there. Obviously, that is a treasure trove of information that AI can work on. And so that is a logical place that EQMSs will start. And many of them have started today kind of with complaints because high risk, usually a decent amount of volume and data that can come in, and there's a good return on investment, both in terms of quality and compliance improvements you can achieve with that, as well as kind of productivity and helping folks kind of get up to speed quickly using these AI solutions. So it is definitely happening. I don't think it's happening as fast as they're telling you, that they can do it, and I suspect that most of them are looking for guinea pigs, as they're advertising, looking for guinea pigs who they can operate on to help develop these tools in parallel, because they don't exactly understand the use cases that are going to be most valuable to folks like yourselves just yet. They know a few, but they don't know all of them, and so they're kind of working alongside, I think, industry and partners who are willing to work with them to bring some of those solutions to bear within their system. Now, with that said, I think there's lots of other solutions out there that may be viable more quickly than adopting an EQMS. Or, if you're an EQMS, you're kind of stuck. It's very, very hard to change EQMS. It's like, it's very cost prohibitive. It takes years to do. And so if your EQMS provider doesn't have an AI solution that another one does, you're stuck. And so that's obviously why we encourage folks at MyQMS is to consider augmentation tools that can partner with any type of EQMS so that you're not completely siloed and walled off from potential viable solutions.
But that's interesting, Justin. One of the things running through my head is the validation problem insofar as how do you validate a moving target? You can't. Sorry, how do I explain that? So if we think of any AI system, we think of it as a continuously evolving learning system. So it's constantly moving. Yet if you think about validation, it's about checking a static, a static picture as such. So like your solution is, right, you validate your core EQMS, and then you use a tool like MyQMS to leverage AI kind of like in parallel to that. But I don't see anytime soon being able to have a truly AI first EQMS. Or am I completely miles off?
It'll take a change in thinking in terms of how you approach that. So obviously from if we're talking about computer software validation perspective, we could go very deep in that, but big picture, obviously everything has to be kind of validated. But even the FDA, when they're asked questions about this, they will say, we're not giving you any guide. We're not giving any additional guidance from what we've already given, but how to validate an AI system, because as soon as they do that, it'll be out of date. That's what they've said. So they say, follow the intent of like the FDA guidance on computer software assurance is one example that I heard in a webinar. And so that's, again, you focus on what is the intended use of the system, what did it do a risk assessment, and then, perform assurance/validation as you feel appropriate for your quality system. So everything is different. There's not one answer that I would give to anybody about here's the only way to do it. So using an AI system in that context, if you were to identify, hey, I'm going to use an AI system to, help me review my CAPAs before I sign them off to help look through and find common pitfalls and problems, you might consider that, hey, that's a low risk. I'm still doing a human review. It's helping me augment. I do some testing to show that it gives me, consistent guidance. It's not gonna be the same every single time, obviously, because if you're using Gen AI, it's not gonna be the same every time. So there are common sense ways to use the frameworks that the FDA and regulatory bodies have given us for how to look at these systems and apply it to AI to actually get these over the finish line and use them. But it's going to take a little bit different approach. It's going to take a different mindset if you want to use these.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. And I suppose if we go to the kind of practical skills, what people can do today, how can leaders support this transition within their teams without anyone feeling overwhelmed? Because I know it is a big change. So what's the skills or mindset people need to adopt to support this?
Go ahead, Connor.
Me first. Okay, wonderful. So what is the solution to life? Is that what you're asking? I know, yeah. So support is needed. First, you gotta get training. You gotta understand what these tools do and what they don't do. You see, because when people don't understand stuff, they start to build up fears, a lot of them very justified, about the dangers around tools. So you need to start to understand what you're working with, the fundamentals behind it, how it works and everything like that. And the only way to get that is through training. And you can train yourself, or you can attend conferences or webinars, or you can get training off lots of different people. And I would hope that leadership would support anybody who's interested in upskilling themselves in AI, because like if you think about the future that I'm envisaging, if it happens in 2, 3, 5, 10 years time, or even if we take steps along that journey, people who are comfortable with AI will be far more productive and valuable within a company than people who are not. So it's never too early to start to learn and to support people on their learning journeys around AI. So that would always be my first step. Support your people in their learning.
That leads well into a question Johnny just asked. Do you think professionals in life sciences will need to become more technical in order to understand the work effectively with AI? Justin, you might be.
100%, 100%. There's no doubt. I mean, it's like asking a question of back in the 1970s. Do you think engineers are going to need to learn how to use computers to do their jobs? I mean, obviously, in retrospect, the answer is of course. I think that same kind of concept applies right now.
Yeah.
That no knowledge worker or professional, which I consider folks in life science-based knowledge workers, right? We all go to very difficult schools to do what we do. So we're knowledge workers. You are going to have to learn how to use these tools to do your job. Like, it's not a question in my mind.
Yeah. But then the other side of that is like, so me coming from outside of industry and knowing more about AI, how it's built and everything like that, people in the life sciences and particularly in medtech, they seem to have a very engineering style approach to the jobs that they do. They're very logical, process orientated, very disciplined. That healthy cynicism is there. Always double check my answers. It seems to me that for people that I've met over the last 3 years in life sciences, their mindset and their skill set are very well positioned to understanding how to use AI and how to adopt AI. So it's not like it's going to be particularly difficult. You know what I mean?
I would hope
What
so.
do you think of that?
I would totally agree. I mean, we obviously, but on the other flip side, we're also generally pretty risk averse, right? We're doing very important things with our patients, and so we don't ever want to put that at risk. And so that's why I always advocate make sure you have a human in the loop. It's an augmentation system. How do you marry AI and technology capabilities together with that unique human expertise we bring? And that human empathy we need to bring into our jobs to make sure we're meeting the needs of our patients. So those systems, it's a unique blend compared to deploying an AI chatbot for your McDonald's order. Like very, very different kind of concept, right?
Yeah.
And so we do need to bring our own unique, I guess, experiences and requirements into how we deploy this technology. But to say that it will never come or that we don't need to worry about it here, I think again, be like ignoring computers in 70s names.
And that again goes to like Justin, one of the big fears that I have for AI is that the advancements get driven by people with different incentives to the incentives that we have, if you know what I mean. So I had that in education. So we were, as I said at the very start, we were working with children and with children's minds. Yet the AI drive at the time was to try to make people addicted. Well, and that has driven all these the Facebooks and the TikToks and everything that we see ubiquitous at the moment, all based off Ira Nadal's hooked techniques in terms of the trigger, action, reward, investment in ever quickening loops. We need to get in now and start to guide the direction and the incentive structure around the implementation of AI so that it is exactly as you said, Justin, so that it is developed with the intent that we want.
So, no, that's very good. So yeah, just conscious of time. If I just put the last question to both of you of like, what's your one step to take tomorrow? What would you recommend people to do tomorrow? Connor, I might put that to you first.
Actually, Justin said when we were preparing for this call that he had a reading list or a book list. So poor Kira got some emails over the weekend on some stuff that I went thinking about. But start your individual learning journey here. Attend and listen to people like Justin, who is a wealth of knowledge on not just AI, but like his background in the industry is phenomenal. So it's good to get the broad picture, but if you can listen to people like Justin who understand where you're coming from and the unique challenges that you're going to face, that's twice as valuable. It's more than twice as valuable as listening to general AI speakers. Um, do courses if that's good for you. Read books if that's good for you, and we'll circulate a reading list afterwards, a joint reading list. Mix my ones up with Justin so that people can't tell whose are whose.
Yeah, I mean, what I tell folks is, the just try something, right? I mean, it can be a little bit overwhelming, I'm sure, to a lot of folks to say there's been so much change over the last 3 years. I can't even keep every week. There's some new announcement. I can't keep up, and that's true to some cases. Even I get overwhelmed with what is coming out there. So I would just start somewhere and start small, And so we encourage people to do is like, use if you have like a walled off version for your organization of ChatGPT or Copilot, whatever it is, use that to start experimenting with just very simple use cases. Audit my kappa and make sure my root causes have been fully explored. Look at my complaint and see if there's any problems. Help me write my problem statement for a kappa that is about this, whatever it is. Just start trying to use it, and just kind of get a feel for what it's good at, what it's not. It's just more experimentation. But then what that I think will lead to is some sparks for, okay, here's where I think I could use this in my workflows. And that will then lead you into more of ideally a formalized process to evaluate the work you do, using the Inspire framework or whatever framework you may have at your company for kind of looking at business process analysis, workflow analysis. But you got to start with some kind of spark that gets you a way, an entry point that gives you some confidence of what it can and can't do. And then that will then, I think, lead to some more interesting things. And like Connor said, there's a whole host of kind of more formal trainings that we'll send to you guys that I think are pretty interesting also to help you with that.
Thanks for that, Joe. I just had a thought there. One of the things that I think that we started to, we're obviously deep in our journey here in Trinzo, but recently on Fridays, Johnny does a quick tip or trick on Copilot for internal use. I can't remember. That's kind of marrying your what can leadership support and people do on the ground. That question that you had, Kira. What was it he did this weekend?
We had scheduling with Copilot. That one was
that was
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Yeah. And but like if someone in your team is handy at this, just to show and share some tips and tricks, like it's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Great. No, thank you both so much for sharing your insights and experience. I think this session was really valuable, and I hope the audience got something out of it to take away. So just to wrap up, our key takeaways. So I think it's clear from the conversation, AI is here. It's real, accessible, and maturing. So start sooner rather than later. I think obviously AI can bring a lot of efficiency to workflows and teams, but I suppose in our industry, think of it in terms of de-risking our operations also, so improving quality. As Connor mentioned, the digital workforce. So we're not just going to have hybrid teams, some working in the office and some working from home. We can expect to be working in hybrid teams with people and AI agents. And then just your next step, training and experimentations, is key. And I think, like you said, Connor, support those around you who are testing it.
It's just thinking there, Kira, that term agents. You find 100 different definitions of an agent. From our perspective, just to keep it simple and whatnot, an agent is an AI that does a task and does something out of the task. So for example, if it analyzes your kappa and sends an email to Justin. That's probably a bad example, but but you know what I mean. Insofar as it's like your ChatGPT or your Copilot will do an analysis of something, but then will it do something out the back of that analysis? And that's what we define an agent to be here in Trinzo. But you'll find a whole load of different definitions of what an agent or a team of agents is. Justin, have you any better way of, or what do you mean by when you say agent?
I will say that the industry is awash in terms and hype. And so, agent can mean literally anything that anybody wants to just create. So I try not to put too many boxes around the word agent, but it's a specialized tool that someone has created to do something very specific. Sometimes it's AI, sometimes it's just a macro that they call an agent.
Yeah, that's true.
That might actually not be AI underneath the hood. So always be mindful of terminology and hype that folks are throwing around.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. So I did see a couple of more questions coming in, and I know we're up on time. So if you do have any questions, do please reach out to Justin and Connor. Their emails will be in the slides, and their LinkedIns are there, so you can give them a follow. So our next webinar in the series is on October 15th. We'll be looking at how to personalize your AI tools for greater precision and performance. So again, please register and share with your teams. And I hope you found today valuable. I'll be sending out the slides, the recording, and a feedback form for you all. So it's really important we get your feedback to see if you prefer the demo-like or the panel style discussion. But thank you very much for attending, and hopefully see you all soon.